everyone, I know I look a little bit funny right now with only my eye makeup on, but today's video is actually going to be me mixing all of my foundations together. So I have 21 foundations here I'm going to mix together. I was going to include my Estee Lauder Double Wear, but it is practically empty right now, so can't put that in. The other bottles I have left in my makeup stand are all backups of these foundations. So I have this little Chinese takeaway lid, and I'm basically just going to get a cotton tip, put them all out, mix them all together and create some sort of concoction. Some of these foundations are too dark for me right now, for example this L'Oreal one, and some of them are too pale for me right now. So my Maybelline Matte and Poreless is too pale for me right now. I got a nice bit of a tan when I went to the beach last week, so yeah, it's too pale for me. But I'm going to mix all my foundations together, try and get the same amount of product on from each one, and I'll see how it goes. All the foundations I mix together I will link in the description box down below, or at least just mention them, and the colours that I used, because I've got 3 different colours of Dermacoal here. I've got 207 for when I'm really pale, I've got 209 for when I'm in the middle, and I've got 213 for when I need to make my foundations more yellow and when I am tan. So I've got 3 different colours here, so this should be quite fun because I've got full coverage, I've got medium coverage, I've got light coverage, I've got a white foundation, I've got dark ones, I've got matte and dewy. So let's jump straight into it. I'll mix them all together and I'll be right back. Okay, so I mixed all my foundations together and I have a concoction looking sort of like this. The colour is going to be too dark, possibly too pink, but that is what I got with everything mixed together. I sat here and mixed it for ages, so I know it's all mixed together. I have got my brush here. This is perfectly clean. This is my round top. I would use my angled face brush, but it is filthy right now. So I got my round top, and I'm also going to use my beauty blender on the other side of my face and basically just treat this like it's a first impression. So I have no primer on my face because a lot of these foundations I don't use with a primer, and I just want to see how well they last on my skin. So you can see my scars are out to party right now. My face is not as red as what it normally is, but my scars are out, and my face has been getting very, very red throughout the day. So I'm just going to apply this and hope for the best. So I'll do the sponge on this side of my face and the brush on this side. I will start with the sponge. I have got that much, so I've got Dermacoal mixed in here, so let's hope it works. Okay, the colour, unless this oxidizes really bad, the colour's actually not that bad. It matches fairly well. I'd say my white foundation in here has made it work really well because it was way too dark. And then I'll do my forehead. Okay, I'm going to put my hair back in my headband because I'm sick of holding it. So it actually looks really, really good. It looks mostly skin-like. I'm just going to look a bit closer in my mirror, but it looks really skin-like. It is emphasizing like the dryness over my scars. It doesn't look the best over my nose, but that also could be because I didn't blend it enough. Yeah, the more I blend it, the better it looks. It sort of goes into my pores first. I'll zoom you guys in. Yeah, so you can see it sort of just sits on top of my pores first before I blend it in, but sorry if you can hear the wind. But yeah, it is emphasizing a bit of the dryness over my scars, and it has oxidized, but yeah, so far so good. It's actually looking a lot better than half of these foundations look on their own. So now I'm going to use a brush and see if it looks any different. It'll also tell me the lasting power, because My foundations tend to last a lot longer on me when I blend them in with a brush, because I'm not adding extra moisture to them from the sponge like what a sponge does. Okay, so the brush has gone a bit funny over my nose, which it always does no matter what foundation I use. But it hasn't covered up completely the redness on my cheek. It could also be because I didn't use as much product over there, because I know my brushes tend to make my foundation a little bit streaky here. But other than that, it actually has a lot more of a skin-like appearance. Again, could be because this is either buffing it into my skin or because I used more product on my sponge. But I have to say overall, I will use the sponge again. Lately I have not been the biggest fan of using a brush, particularly building up a foundation. It hasn't completely covered all my scars and things, so I am going to go and do a second layer with the sponge to see if it works. But the sponge side is hiding my pores a little bit more. The sponge side sort of made it go a bit, the brush made it go a bit funny on my nose. But other than that, it like blended over here a lot better. And my forehead looks a little bit more matte with the brush. But other than that, it doesn't even look streaky, which is weird because normally they do. But I'm going to do a second layer with the sponge and see if it helps. Okay, so it is looking a bit more heavy on the second layer. I've got 21 foundations mixed together with 2 layers, including 3 different colours of Dermacol. Most people who mix these in only use 1 colour, but I got all 3, so yeah. It is looking a little bit more heavy on the second layer, but it still looks really nice. My Maybelline Matte and Poreless looks a lot more textured than this. It's looking really smooth, particularly on this side. For some reason, this side it's looking a little bit more chunky. Could also be because I got more scarring on this side, so that could be why. It's now settled on my chin. The more I let it just sit and settle on the skin, the more like skin-like it's becoming. The colour is too dark. I don't think I'm going to be able to fully show you. A few of these foundations I have do oxidize, so this OXX one did. Some of my BB creams oxidize, but I've also got a lot darker foundations in here, like this one and my L'Oreal ones. So yeah, that's probably why. Obviously, plus 209 from Dermacol is a lot more pink for me, things like that. But I'm very impressed with it right now. I don't think I have ever looked this flawless in my life. And yeah, so I'm going to go, it's sort of a satin dewy finish. It's more of a dewy finish, particularly around around my nose, I've noticed. I'm definitely going to powder my face because I never not powder. But yeah, it is looking more of a slightly dewy finish. So I am going to do a check-in later to see how this lasts throughout the day. I'm treating it like it's a proper first impression. I have a heap of products left over, which I don't really care about. Most of my foundations are cheap anyway. So that's part of the reason as well why I mix some of the Dermacols in, is because they go a lot further, and because they got high coverage you only need a little bit. So yeah, but it's looking a little bit heavy around my nose. Every foundation does. I've never had a foundation that doesn't look funky around my nose, even with a primer on, because my nose is such, the crevices of my nose are so deeply set, like they actually go to here. So all of my foundations crease in my nose. They never actually set properly in my nose. But I'm going to go and do the rest of my makeup. It's actually currently 12:30. I'm not going to be leaving this on for too long, but I am going to do a check-in later. So I'm going to finish the rest of my makeup. I'll put all the products I use down below. They will be my normal products, my concealer, powder and everything. So I will be back with the rest of my makeup done. Alright, so I've actually had the makeup on for nearly 2 hours. Yeah, oops. I was helping my mum make stuff and then I had to run down the store to grab things because we ran out of ingredients, etc, etc. Anyway, my blush, my bronzer, and my highlight just looks... Anyway, my blush, my bronzer, and my bronzer in particular looks a lot more smooth than what it normally does. Not saying it's a chunky one, but I mean it just glided over a lot smoother. I used my Real Techniques buffing brush for my bronzer, and sometimes this is like too dense, so it sort of moves my foundation around and makes it go streaky and like removes it from my face. But it actually didn't do that today. It just glided over. It blended out perfectly. I have used all my normal makeup products. I will link them down below if you are interested. But yeah, it just worked really, really well. I was super surprised. Normally it takes me ages to blend out my bronzer, particularly if I'm using this brush. I need denser brushes in order to blend things out on my face, personally for me. Even on my eyes, I have found that flimsier brushes don't really blend my products as much. I do apologize if you can hear my mum. She doesn't care when I film. She just makes as much noise as she can. But my bronzer blended out perfectly fine. My concealer blended out looking really good. Now today is raining and it is like, it's really cloudy, but it's really bright in case you can't tell. And in the car, my face looked a little bit orange. It just showed how much darker my face is than my body. Sitting here right now, it looks like it is acceptable and it's perfectly fine. On camera, it just looks like my face is more yellow, but in real life, in the car, it looked a lot darker. So yeah, obviously it's a lot darker and I'm not always going to mix 21 foundations together. If I wanted to make it lighter, I should have just put some more of this in it, things like that. But so far, really impressed. I did have a sneezing fit and had to blow my nose, so I did just grab my sponge and like pounced some more foundation on the end of my nose and re-powdered. But other than that, I haven't put powder anywhere else, and I only put it on the tip of my nose. It didn't go up. It has covered up my highlight a bit, which is fine. But other than that, I haven't put anything else on. So yeah, it still looks really smooth. It's showing some of my scars and my bumps, but it's not making them look overly dry or gross. It actually looks relatively nice on my forehead. So far, I'm actually fairly impressed. I thought, particularly because I have got all the Dermacol in here, and for me personally, I can't wear the Dermacol on its own. Because I've just put little stickers for the names on the back of them because they're too dark. Personally for me, I can't use the Dermacol on its own. It's too waxy and sort of doesn't set, so that's why I always mix it in with something. I thought because of that my face would go like really heavy and chunky looking, but it's actually quite nice. My brows turned out half okay for once. They weren't too big. I like them. And yeah, so I will see you guys later just before I go to wash everything off. Okay, so this is what my face looked like after 6.5 hours of wear. As I said, I wasn't doing a complete 10-hour check-in, but this is what it looks like. I was unable to go and film a full segment for this, but this is what you are getting. So this was just before I went and jumped in the shower, and as you can see, my face is oily, but I'm not as completely oily as what I normally am. It did oxidize quite a bit, but it still looks perfectly fine on my forehead. It looked really smooth, really airbrushed, and just perfect. The two like freckles and scars that are on my forehead, they did come through, but other than that, it came off a little bit on the end of my nose, but that's only because I was blowing my nose all day, and it was off my top lip, but that's because I was removing my lip colour. Other than that, really, I was super impressed. I was not really oily at all. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Please check out the description box down below for all the products I was wearing. Please hit the subscribe button while you are down there. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!